If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphones, and they wanna know. Yeah, a fresh, cool young Lou trying to cash his microphone check 212.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you were joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. It is a Monday. It is after Father's Day. Let me be the one to wish you all the fathers out there, the ones that don't get their due, the ones that have made the mistakes, the ones that have done everything right, the ones who haven't had an opportunity to be the father that they wanted to be for whatever reason. Let me wish you all a happy Father's Day. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that you don't get to decide the perception of you. You can only do what you feel is right in the moment. You can only do what you feel is best for everyone in the moment, and let the chips fall where they may. And the one thing that I will say is that fathers everywhere, whether you were somebody that was in the home your kid's entire life, whether you're someone that was not in the home, whether your kid during your kid's entire life, you had connection to them, you didn't. Whatever decision you made, you most likely did because you were thinking in the best interest. We don't always get it right. We don't always get it right, but I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed that all those fathers out there have an opportunity. It's never too late to have a relationship. It's never too late to do things better. You can't go back and erase the past. You can't redo history, but you can start a new chapter. And so today, the day after Father's Day, I encourage all of those out there to start a new chapter, however it might be. And be the man that you know you are to everyone, right? Don't just let them put the perception of who you are out there. Be the man that you are and allow people to see you for who you are. It has been a lot going on in the sports world since the last time we talked, last Monday, I believe, on Talk Spicy. I've got a jam-packed show. I've got guests out the wazoo. I don't have guests out the wazoo. It's the day of the NBA Finals, game 5. I'm going to be joined by Whit Lesure. We are going to do our Zebra Stripes podcast like we normally do. It should be a really good conversation. I'm looking forward to that. And then I've got something special for you guys coming up. I'm not even going to tell you about it right now. I'm just going to say that you won't want to miss it. And that is for sure. I'm really excited. But the things that I am cooking on today, we can say whatever we want about how things have changed and how we have come a long way and how there is equality at a level that we've never seen it before. And sports is supposed to be a meritocracy, and no bigger place that we see the meritocracy than in football. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's a meritocracy. The best players, they are the ones that play. The best players, they get the accolades. The best players, they get the fruits, right? And so I'm watching over the last week, and as Trevor Lawrence signs a deal that pays him upwards of $55 million a year, a deal that guarantees him essentially $200 million. And to see what little he had to do in order to get that contract, to see what little Kirk Cousins had to do in order to get his contract, to see what little Justin Herbert had to do to get his contract, to see what little Baker Mayfield had to do to get his contract. I keep watching all of these middle of the road guys who keep getting elevated to high level guys, right? They're middle of the pack guys. They haven't won anything. They haven't done anything individual accolade that would make them stand out from other people, except maybe stat compile. And yet they get dropped the bag on and nobody argues about it. There's nobody out there saying, oh, Justin Herbert shouldn't get paid. Nobody's out there saying Trevor Lawrence, although I have heard a little bit of pushback on Trevor Lawrence, it's nowhere near the level that I have seen people talk about others. Remember, just a year ago, we were out here talking about whether Jalen Hurts was worth the money. Just a year ago, we were out here talking about whether or not Lamar Jackson was worth the money. And we were doing that in a sphere, in a world where Jalen Hurts had just come off of a Super Bowl appearance, and Lamar Jackson was a one-time MVP, then got his money and won an MVP again. Yet when we watch and we see people rank their quarterbacks, guess who were never near the top? Right? They're never the top. They're always a second-tier guy. Meanwhile, we keep trying to elevate Josh Allen to Patrick Mahomes status. We keep trying to elevate Joe Burrow to Patrick Mahomes status. We keep trying to put an old school veteran like Matt Stafford on the level that's there. We keep trying to put Justin Herbert on that level. We watch Herbert get his money. We watch Lawrence get his money. We watch Baker Mayfield get his money. But people are questioning whether or not Tua Tagovailoa should be paid. He's the same type of quarterback as those guys, and yet there are people out there that goes, man, I don't know if we should pay Tua. We got people trying to act like Dak Prescott, who is up for a contract extension, whether or not he should be paid. This comes on the heel of the first time he was up for a contract extension, and they made him play it out through franchise tags. What is going on out here? Why is there such why is there such inequality in the way in which these players are covered? Right? We're so afraid out here these days to state the obvious, right? We have black people afraid to say, hey, this has something to do about race, because they don't want people saying that they're pulling the race card. We have white people who are afraid to say this is about race because people are going to say, oh, well, you're just using that because that's easy argument, easy cannon fodder, right? But when the truth is just the truth, we have to speak on the truth. The way in which Lamar Jackson is covered is not the same way that Justin Herbert is covered. It's just the truth. Justin Herbert, we've heard for years that they've got to get Justin Herbert help, right? Meanwhile, they've invested first-round draft pick wide receiver after first-round draft pick wide receiver after 1,000-yard receiver. Like, they had them all there for him for years. He did nothing with them. All he did was put up a bunch of yards and not win. Juxtapose that by what Lamar Jackson was dealing with in Baltimore, where this year they got him this past year they got him a first-round wide receiver, a legitimate guy in Zay Flowers, and all of a sudden the Baltimore offense looked like one of the best offenses in all the land. All it took was one. Him, they brought in an old OBJ who showed he still got value, he still got promise, and that was all it took. And magically, just with that little bit, magically, things improved. They are saying that Tua doesn't deserve to get paid because look at the weapons he has around him. But nobody said that about Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow got paid, because look at all the weapons that he had. And then when the backup came in and played just like Joe Burrow, nobody said, oh, well, maybe Joe Burrow might be overrated. Nobody said that. They said that, man, if he's able to do that, imagine how much better this offense is going to be with Joe Burrow. No, it's going to be the same offense because Joe Burrow doesn't play defense. The same way Tua doesn't play defense, the same way Lamar Jackson doesn't play defense, or Patrick Mahomes, or any one of these other guys. We can't sit here and continue to act as if there is not a double standard in the way in which we cover these young men, the way in which we talk about them, the way in which we value them, and look around and go, no, this is the same. None of this is different. People are calling the Daniel Jones contract that the Giants gave him a couple of years ago, they're calling it a bargain. It's still not a bargain. You know why? Because he's not worth $40 million a year. And until we start telling the truth, we're never going to get beyond the fact that where we can say, hey, there is something else in play here outside of just their play. Justin Herbert has been injured, right? Joe Burrow has been injured. Both of them have been injured multiple times in their careers. Yet, every time we talk about a quarterback and whether or not he's worth the money, the only person I ever hear them talking about is Lamar Jackson. Oh, well, he runs a lot, so that puts him in danger. Yet, he's never been injured while running. The only time he's ever been injured is when in the pocket. Because being in the pocket and staying in the pocket, being stationary in the pocket is dangerous. When you are running, you control how you get hit. When you're in the pocket, you don't have any control. You're trusting the people in front of you. He's never been injured as a runner. And yet, every time we talk about him and getting injuries and why they should be concerned. You know who we never talk about getting injured as a runner? Anybody? Aaron Rodgers. You want to know every single time Aaron Rodgers has been injured, it's been because he was a runner, because he was trying to run. Even when he blew his Achilles out, it was him trying to get out of the pocket. But we never say that about him. We never question whether or not the Jets should have given him $80 billion as a 457-year-old quarterback to come out there and run things. They just said, well, he's Aaron Rodgers. Of course you're going to pay him. Right? But for all of the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, he has one championship. In an organization that has been structured to win all the time, continuously winning all the time, and yet he wasn't able to win more than one championship with that organization. He was ready to go to New York, where they haven't won ever, and leave one of the best organizations in football, and everybody acted as if it was Green Bay's fault. And we're trying to sit here and say there's not a double standard. Jordan Love went in and had a similar season to what Aaron Rodgers had as a quarterback, and people are questioning whether or not to pay Jordan Love. Why? If there's any organization you should trust in paying a quarterback, it should be Green Bay. Look at the track record. Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and now Jordan Love. That's well over 30 plus years of great quarterback play without any fall off. Excuse me, that's the team you should trust. Yet we have all these people out here questioning whether or not they should be in the fold. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. And every time we try to have a real legitimate conversation, you know what I get from other people? Well, you just make it about race. Well, lowest common denominator says, hey, what else is different? So if you can tell me what it is, I'm here. The comments are open. I don't shut off any kind of conversation. Talk to me. Tell me I'm tripping, but don't just say I'm tripping and don't say I'm just making it about race. Give me an actual legitimate reason why there's a difference in the way in which these high-level white quarterbacks and these mid-level white quarterbacks are talked about, are phrased, are criticized. Tell me why there's a difference in the way in which they are looked at and they are talked about than the way in which these high-level black quarterbacks are talked about. I'm willing to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be joined by Whit Lesure of Bridging Academy. It's the Zebra Stripes podcast coming up right when we get back. This is Talk Spicy.
I don't see any rain, just clouds.
I cut in one section. I don't know if I should keep going or.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I am joined right now. Coach Whit, you got me?
I got you.
Zebra Stripes podcast. I am Coach Gene Clemens, joined as always by Coach Whit Lesure of Bridging Academy. Sorry, I am as you can tell, I am on the move today. So um trying to keep this thing rolling, keep this thing moving. Coach Whit, how are you?
I'm great. I mean, that just means you're on the move. That means you'll probably be, freezing up, and I'll be taking over from, a one man show from time to time. But really, it's the calm before the storm. Literally, we've got mid 90-degree weather coming our way. And then, of course, we got the Celtics winning a championship tonight in game 5. So it's the calm before the storm right now. And you're
Yeah,
staring at me like you didn't even hear.
I'm looking forward to game 5, not because I think that Dallas can come back to win, but really just because I'm trying to keep you from getting a free bottle of tequila.
That's true. I mean, the bottom line is there's a little something riding on this that I would hate to see disappear. And obviously, the way the Celtics played in Game 4 didn't make me feel very good. But I'm willing to toss that one away. The team obviously has a flair for the dramatic. They like that. So I'm gonna roll with them tonight at home and know that should they not get that done, not only will I not be getting any tequila, but boy, the airwaves will be heating up with the prospect of a 3-3 series and maybe 7th game back at Boston. So, like I said, calm before the storm because all hell could break loose here one way or another.
Absolutely. I think I'm willing to just shake off game 4 as the Celtics being the Celtics, right? Like this has kind of been their MO. They could have lost several games versus Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they were fortunate enough to watch Indiana implode down the stretch in a lot of those games that they had the opportunity to lose. And you knew that if we talked about it, if Kyrie and Jokic, and Luka Doncic are able to get off at the same time, it's a long day for Boston. And in game 4, that's the first game we really saw them both get off together. I do want to talk about something that's been going around and get your take on it. We've talked about it before, and it is Luka Doncic, his lack of defense, and not even the fact that he can't play defense, but that he does not prioritize it. And I think you had said that even throughout the playoffs, Luka had been playing good defense. And it is clear to me that Boston said, well, we're going to figure out how good a defense he can play. And they just attack. And he's been bad, particularly bad in like really bad in game 3. But throughout the entire series, he's been bad, like really bad. And so, like, what do you look at when you see this and you're watching him? Are you seeing a guy who has the ability to play defense at a higher level, just choosing not to? Or do you think there's some real legitimate deficiencies in what he brings to the table defensively that doesn't allow him to be a better defensive player?
Well, he was better in game 4, right? And it would be hard to be any worse or equal, but he was noticeably better in game 4. I mean, if you break it down, just the idea of not bellyaching to the refs and getting back defensively or sitting on the floor watching the play, but I mean, just his on-ball defense, etc. I think it's a choice. He just has to make a commitment. I do think the heat he took for both his lack of defense, people questioning his conditioning, all of that stuff in between games. I think he obviously went out in game 4 and, showed you that he's far more capable than he's been letting on. I think some of the heat got to him. And do I think he's ever going to be a great defender? No, nor do I think he needs to be. I'd put him in the, Larry Bird category, maybe, that he's never going to be the best on-ball defender. But, I mean, there's a lot of ways to play defense, too. You can always be a good positional player, make smart decisions, just like the guys offensively that aren't the most gifted players. If you understand what your role is, most of the time we talk about that from an offensive standpoint, but if you know what your role is defensively, you can contribute to that. So I just think his role, right, because teams follow their leader. We say that all the times in sport, and when your leader is playing defense, then the rest of your team is probably playing defense. When your leader is, selfish on offense or this and that, well, the rest of your team is probably going to play that way. So I think he's got it in him to be far more than I think than he's shown, and I think it's just an experience and maturity thing, and we'll continue to see. And he might have just grown up right before our eyes, which obviously as a Boston fan kind of scares me, because that's their kryptonite. If guys like him and Kyrie don't guard, they're done. But if they go out there and guard and then bring it on the other end, and maybe Lively has just grown up in front of our eyes, et cetera, no Porzingis, right? Now Boston's vulnerable, but how vulnerable, I'm gonna, that may have to be another conversation after tonight's game.
So what do you do if Porzingis comes to you and says, "Hey, coach, I'm good enough to give it a try"? Do you roll him out there, or do you try to hedge your bets? So let's see if we can get it done without him, knowing that you've got more time in between each game to help him get more, help him get healthier. Are you saying, nope, we can't afford to try to wait this thing out, we got to try to kill them before they get any confidence? Or do you say, nope, well, let's try to get him back as healthy as possible, because I think with a healthy him, we're unbeatable versus this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, I'm having the conversation with him, but more importantly, I'm having the conversation with the team doctors, right? And so together, the three of us or more, right, and the conversation is this: does another 2 to 5 days, I can't remember what the schedule is after tonight, okay, what the games are, okay, but does, say, the next week have him substantially healthier, right, for potential either game 6 or 7? So if he's X percent, I'd want to know what percent is he right now. And if he doesn't play and continues to rehab, this injury will be, is going to be significantly better. If the answer is yeah, he's going to be significantly better later this week, then I sit him and I try to win without him, and then I know I have a better guy later. But if the answer, which it very well could be, hey, look it, this thing is just going to be painful and whatever, and not career threatening, by the way, because that's a piece of it, right? It's going to be painful, and he may not be, he's not going to be near 100%, but it's not going to matter, right? Whether he plays tonight or whether he plays in game 6 or 7, then I'm playing him tonight, because you can't afford at home. You want to get the win. You just want to get the win. So that's the conversation I'm having with the team doctors to know, because some injuries, right? Some have the chance to, to get better and better. Others, they are what they are, and whether you play or not and this or that, it doesn't really change the nature of them, depending on what that risk is. And so I'd want to break that thing down and then make the decision based on that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think I'm going a completely different way. I'm shutting them down to game 7.
Right.
I'm right now, hey, you're done. You're done game 7. If we make it there, be ready to go. Game 7 at home. Don't get on a plane to come to the games. None of that. Nope. Your job is to get as healthy as you can possibly get. When and if, or if and when, whichever you want to use, we hit a game 7. And then I go back in there to Brown and Tatum and I tell them, it is your job to get this thing done so he never has to get on the court again this year.
Yeah, and I like that, but really that's just that. I like what you're saying, but that just ignores the science of the injury, and it's more a emotional, mental, motivational ploy, which again is fine, right? That's what coaches do, and that's what players do. But I think I'd want to know the science behind the injury so that I would and then use judgment. But I mean, even obviously, I don't hate what you're saying, and there's something to it. But I would defer to the doctors, and I'd defer to what the actual, kind of nature of that injury is. Which again, I don't think we're getting a ton of information anyway. That leads me to believe that he's not playing. I will be surprised if he plays tonight, and I think I'll then be surprised if he plays in Dallas should they lose tonight. So I think it's probably going to play out the way you're talking about. And it could very well, but if it does get to a game 7, he may not be playing in game 7 either. That's what I would say. Like if it gets to a game 7 and he hasn't played, then this injury is probably such that, you know what? Hey, Brown and Tatum, you're gonna have to get it done in game 7 too. If or we're gonna be the first team in NBA history to have blown a 3-0 lead.
So you wouldn't, because I'm just like, with a 3-1 lead, I have essentially 2 games to just like to mess with things, right? To just throw out a lineup that they've never seen, throw out a thought process that they've never seen, a scheme that they weren't ready for, something that they don't identify us with. Just start like, throwing curveballs and then on top of that, let my stars be my stars, right? So it's like, it's not just I'm leading with emotion. It's like, well, okay, now we're gonna get back in the lab and say, oh, what can we do to change the math from what we have? Like, is us putting a small lineup out there and letting their big have to eat? Is that a better way to go than allowing the ball to just continually stay in Kyrie and Luka Doncic's hands? I want them throwing the ball down to Jones and letting Jones just pound away, getting 2-point shots because we have like smaller defenders on him. Like that to me seems like a way to go. Do you think there's any credence to that, or am I just like going crazy with some thought processes that don't make any sense?
Yeah, well, no, I think it makes sense to a degree. I heard I don't know who it was, but a knowledgeable broadcaster talk about tweaks and adjustments, and that's kind of what you're talking about. But on the same hand, actually, I think it was on the Mind the Game stuff,
Okay.
right? With JJ and LeBron and look at you've had all season working on the schemes of your team on defense and offense, and yes, you'll tweak them, but you're not gonna throw out the baby with the bathwater. You're not just fundamentally changing. You put all this work into these schemes, so you kind of are what you are at this point, again, within reason. So I don't think and so I have enough respect for Uncle Mo, and that's momentum, right? I have enough respect that in sport that these things flip on a dime, and you got to be awfully careful. So I don't think it's the time to be too careless and above it all, or you'll find yourself in a tough spot. So I for me, my cup of tea is, do what we do and just do it better. And so the confidence I have, and as much, again, I've said from the beginning, you've heard me say it, KP is just an enormous key. And after the first, at first we said, maybe he's not. Maybe, no, he's a difference maker. But, Derek White and Drew Holiday both did not play very well, in addition to the others in the Dallas game. So, I look for Brown or Tatum, ideally both, but I look for at least one of those to step up, and it should be both. But one steps up, and then White and Holiday get back into form, and that's enough for Boston to eke out, a tight win. If they click on all cylinders, then I think, we all in Boston let out a deep breath and maybe we win by 15 and it's a celebration throughout the fourth quarter or something. But I don't expect that. I think it's going to be a very competitive game.
So I wanna like go off a little bit because you were talking about the mind game.
Yeah.
And we've both been intrigued by this podcast because it's dealing a lot with the X's and O's and the minutia of the game, which we like discussing, and which there have been debates on whether or not a show like that can be a success, and they've proven proof of concept. Now, is it that game, that type of show would be successful if it wasn't a name like LeBron James attached to it? I don't know. But I think that what I've enjoyed the most about it is just watching people talk ball and not trying to dumb it down for, whomever. Like, they're explaining things, but they're not explaining it so small that the basketball head is going, man, come on, this is elementary school. Like, let's move it on. The one thing I do want to discuss is, I think it was Stephen A. Smith, and maybe others have said it, but I know Stephen A. Smith has said something about it. He talked about the fact that he thought it was a bad look that the podcast, in fact, made it a bad look for JJ Redick to be to be interviewing for the head coaching job. And I wanted to get your thoughts about it, because in this realm, like in this respect, JJ Redick and LeBron James, like, it's not like a player that was in the league. It's not like Jason Kidd was in the league and then the next year he was the head coach because he was the OG of any players that he would have been coaching, right? This is a situation where a guy who is not the caliber of peer to a LeBron James would now be his head coach. Like, do you think that is a dynamic that could work? Or do you think that there would be some issues with how the team is being coached, being managed, because there's just too much familiarity, and maybe in some respects where the player, not even as, well, I make the most money, so I make the, I'm the boss, really might think that he knows the game better than the coach does.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this in previous pods about the whole player relationship coach versus the authoritarian coach, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of what we're getting into here. I think it can work. I think this whole thing about star players being tight with, right? When Magic, I was just rewatching that, 2-part 30 for 30 on the Lakers, right? When Magic and Dr. Jerry Buss, right? And players were jealous and this and that, and that was owner player the same thing, right? But we've seen whether it's Pat Riley, all these coaches, Steve Nash, you lamented Steve Nash's ascension to the head coach of the Nets. So sometimes it works better than other times, but this idea that the star players are connected to the coach in some way or another is nothing new. So in this case, I do think you have two authentic basketball, not only stars, right, but basketball minds, more importantly. You've got great minds who just, in simpatico or whatever that phrase is, right, on this podcast seem to have, a good rapport, an understanding of the game. So as soon as when I saw his name, I saw, of course, like if I'm the Lakers, I'm hiring him in a heartbeat, and if I'm JJ Redick and I want that opportunity, which I think he has expressed some in the past, right, that at some point he'd like to coach. I think it's just a family decision for him by the sounds of it to me. I'm doing it. Like, great, because, they're not, it's almost a place where he could cut his teeth and if, see how that goes and then set himself up as a coach for the future. So I don't see that as anything new. I think it's great alignment. And, like I don't know, if I'm LeBron, I'm saying, well, here's our guy. And then if I'm JJ, I'm looking at LeBron saying, hey, are we good? Like this should be simple.
Yeah, I just I don't have an issue with it from that perspective. I do, however, think that it's one of those things where, like, why does JJ get to jump the line when it comes to coaching? I feel the same way about all of them. I didn't think Jason Kidd was ready to be a head coach. Like, as soon as he hung up the sneakers, but he got the opportunity. I thought it was too early. I thought it was too early for Derek Fisher. I definitely didn't think Steve Nash deserved to be a head coach. Even though, like, he had at least, spent some time in an organization doing something. I felt like I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're such a traditionalist, so it always, it doesn't shock me that you feel that way. It sometimes surprises me to the extent that like, come on, and in coaching, like, the world where you earn your stripes and right is that's the dinosaur age of start in high school and move to and follow this progression. It's still a valuable way to go and people do it, but there's just not one path, and there's not even one path to be good. Like, I think for some people the experience helps them and they need it and this and that, and I think you've heard I think they say it on their pod too, like, hey man, and Stan Van Gundy said it several times. There's better coaches in the high school ranks than some of the professional coaches, and there's better, blah blah blah. Like, there's good coaches, really good coaches, every level. So who gets the opportunity and who doesn't, that's a different conversation about business, about entertainment, about who's calling the shots. It's not really about coaching, and it's not about the coaches necessarily.
You're just okay with people just rolling off the street getting a job that others have worked their entire life towards.
Yeah, life ain't fair.
Okay. All right. I'll take being a traditionalist in that respect. As far as, like, wanting guys to have earned the right, I don't think that's a diss. I don't even think it's a mischaracterization of me. I think that's spot on. I think you should have to earn your right. Have to earn the right. I also do think that once you get the job and you haven't earned the right, you shouldn't get a long leash. And that's going to be my issue. As a Lakers fan, if you hire JJ Redick, I want him to be under the same pressure that Darvin Ham was under.
Right, but that brings it back to the race conversation probably for you.
No,
which is fair. But I'm
No,
just saying people.
it's a Lakers thing.
Let me say this. I would just say, again, because I don't disagree with you. I don't want to paint myself as the non-traditionalist either. I'm just accepting of however way it goes. And because it just doesn't always go the same way. And so it would be the same on the other end. Like, who gets the longer leash? I don't know. I don't care. That has a lot to do with the ownership group too. We both know that organizations that support their people more rather than less historically tend to have more success. So these organizations that are hiring and firing coaches all the time are rarely, winning championships or the best organization. So you like to see coaches get some time, but that's not the world we're living in. So, and then who's going to decide how much time this guy gets and how much time that guy gets? I don't know. And,
The contract should decide it. Like, the contract should decide it. Yeah. Or why in the hell do we have contracts? Like, that's what I don't. That's why I never understand.
We don't live. We don't live in a society contractually that's structured where all contracts are going to be the same. So I mean, they're just not. So it's not like, if you had a league where kind of like what the players, NFL or something, and now coaches were bound to the same things. All contracts will be 5-year contracts, something like that, like term limits for politicians. I was talking a lot of politics with my wife and one of our recruits that was in from the Netherlands this weekend. So, you want to put, you want to structure things like that. That's kind of intriguing. That's not the way our sports are arranged.
I just look at it and this is where my life as an athlete, as a coach, as a thing crosses over with my thought process as an analyst, right? Because when I look at this, I'm with you. I can understand everything you said. Nothing that you said is wrong, right? This world isn't a meritocracy. It's not who deserves it, blah, blah, blah. Except, like, when you then make the quote of, well, it's statistically known that if this is this, I guarantee you, if somebody's done the math on the coaches that come in with the experience over the coaches that come in with no experience, how they do, you probably will see that the more experienced coaches tend to have the more prolonged success. And so, unless you Steve Kerr it, right? Unless you hit a Steve Kerr and you take over a team already ready to win, that's already been matured and cured and it's ready to serve, right? You're going to struggle.
We might call that struggle. We might call that you could be Steve Kerr or Joe Mazzulla, who LeBron, as you know, right? Because you brought it up, I think, in the last pod, called him. What did LeBron call him? Either a genius or. I don't
remember him calling him a genius, but he did say that he liked him more and more. Like, the more that he,
it was stronger than liked him more and more. He goes, I think I gotta learn more about this guy Joe. I'm starting to like this guy Joe.
Yeah. He definitely said that. I'm starting to really like this Joe Mazzulla dude. Like, meanwhile, Boston people hate him, but that's another story. So it's like,
Boston people aren't going to hate him if they win tonight.
Oh no, it'll be in spite of. You know this to be true.
You know what? That's
to be true.
No, that's not the narrative, because the narrative is he's earned a lot of street cred. So timeout usage for sure. Some of the creative stuff that I think the national media has made a big deal of, fouling, up 6. Keeping it a 2-possession game, some different moves that people have seen the creativity and judgment that he's used, and so he's getting a lot of positive press on that. As long as they finish the deal, he's fine.
You think he'll get the love he deserves if they finish the deal?
Yeah, no, I do, and then I think it'll be. Because I do think this team is built for a run of the next couple of years, even though Embiid doesn't believe it. I think they are built for a 2 or 3 year run. So I think he will ultimately judgment will be okay. He's going to get some of his flowers this year for sure as a coach that's developed. And I think he's got a lot of support in the league from people beyond LeBron James, but other people and obviously players. And so then the naysayers will look at his continued growth next year, and or if he loses Charles Lee and Sam Cassell, oh boy, I think he's in a pretty solid position. But again, probably not. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the perfect position, or I wouldn't say that it's got its potential messes, but he knows that. I think the narrative could be really good. I mean, that's what I think, but it won't be if they don't get it done. It won't, and we already know that, and we've talked about it all year. So that's why it's sport, though. That's why it's that's why we like it.
It was intriguing listening to Joel Embiid talk because he seemed pretty adamant. Like he was talking with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Like, yo, if we're healthy, we're here. Like, if we're healthy, we're here. I think it's bold to say because when are you ever healthy, Joel Embiid, right? Like that's the problem.
I like the way he was talking. Now I also think that he might know something that the rest of us are going to find out later, like Paul George is in fact going to the 76ers, or he's got, because they need more than they got. But if they get it and he knows it, if I was a Philly fan, I would like the way he's talking. But objectively, or as a Boston fan, I'd say, like, Joel, man, what type of threat have you? You've got a lot of work to do, and
I mean, he's been a threat. It was game 7. It was game 7 2 years ago.
Yeah,
he's been a threat.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I'd put him in the same boat as Tatum, which is a superstar, but a superstar that more rightly or wrongly has been expected of, and so far, Philly, he hasn't helped Philly get where most people thought they might get with him and others. And so far, Tatum hasn't brought to Boston what a top 5 player in the league is expected to do in Boston. Now, again, I think that's going to change tonight.
Do you think that Jason Tatum's a top 5 player in the league?
No.
I keep going back to this, and I feel like I don't want to be a hater, right? Like I'm not trying to be a hater.
Yeah.
But I look at Jason Tatum, I don't see a top 5 in the league player.
No.
Like I see the plus version of all of these guys who readily go out and put up 20-something points a game. Like I see the plus version of that. Like he's the highest level. He's the summit of that type of guy. But I don't see him as I don't even think he's a superstar. Like when people say superstar, it's like I don't think Jason Tatum is I don't think he moves the needle anywhere. Like outside of just him being he's a good he's a great basketball player, not even a good. He's a great basketball player. But he's never been looked at in the same light as a Dwayne Wade. He's never been looked at in the same light as a LeBron James, as a Kevin Durant, those are superstars.
I know, but people have put him into that category. He's made it clear he wants to be seen in that category. I do think there's a disconnect, and I think Brad Stevens has a big time decision to make on him. And that I think will hinge on his character. Like if he is, if he's as good a guy, like as and good natured and level keeled and all that as he does seem to be, then they might pay him max dollars and be content that with him and Jaylen Brown and the other pieces around, they're willing to pay for that, But if they see shortcomings in whatever IQ, work ethic, which I don't think there are any from the little bit that I gather, then I think they would try to make some type of deal. But I have no idea what that would look like. And because if we're having this conversation, I mean, every GM around the league knows it too. Like they're going, I don't think he's a superstar. And so I don't, in which case Boston's better off, you're better off with him. You're not going to get the kind of value back that you might hope. So
well, I think that the issue is that Boston's painted themselves into a corner because he's the only, because they paid a guy who nobody thinks is better than Jason Tatum. They paid him superstar money.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that narrative is changing again, which we've seen. But I think Boston people are looking, saying Jaylen Brown's Batman and Jason Tatum is Robin.
Yeah, but those I don't listen to those people.
I know,
right.
But I'm just saying. I
don't.
Hey,
I
look
don't
at
subscribe to those guys.
Jaylen Brown was the MVP of the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, just go on.
Yeah, but
he's
the MVP, I think. All right, so let's have a real conversation. I think Jason Brown is. I think he's more selfish.
Jaylen Brown,
sorry. I think Jaylen Brown's more selfish. And I think that's why Jaylen Brown is starting to be I think that there has been a conscious decision on Jason Tatum. Did I say Jason Brown? Is that why I switched him? Yeah, I did. I think that there's been a conscious decision on Tatum to say, I'm going to let him do him because I know that he won't. But I feel like that Brown is just a more selfish basketball player. And I don't even say that as a negative dig. I'm just saying that Jaylen Brown is going to do, if he thinks things are going a certain way, he's going to go forget it. I'll just do it myself, right? I'll do it. Whereas Tatum has taken a more holistic approach to his game. I don't think that makes Brown better. I think that makes Tatum better. Because he can do that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I wouldn't argue some of that. I don't know if I'd argue any of it. I would say Tatum's skill set and possibly mindset, right? I can't sit here and say with a straight face I know either of their mindset, but I can say Tatum's skill set allows him to perhaps piece this puzzle together better and see that he can do some of those things that need to be done more easily for whatever reason than Jaylen Brown. I've always thought Jaylen Brown, who is getting credit up here for being grittier, and I think that grittiness might be some of the selfishness that you're seeing too. It's hard to say what part of it's gritty and what part of it's selfish. I've always thought, since watching him in college, his skill set, which is improving for sure, has limitations. And so he's just not necessarily going to be as effective, say, a passer as Jason Tatum might be. I think his skill set is limited. I mean, they're different. Let's face it. They're two different players. Oftentimes superstars, and particularly black superstars, get pigeonholed. So you can't look at them as the same. Like, come on,
Mhm.
stop it. They're different people, different talents, different skills. So but I like where you went with it. Like, I think because that's really been the thing in Boston for their entire careers together. Like, is this going to work? Are they too similar? Can they coexist? And so Tatum has swallowed some of that or adjusted to it, right? And for the most part, and some of the national media have come, he's played really well. It's just that he hasn't shot the ball particularly well from the 3-point line, and he hasn't scored the ball or finished around the bucket as well as most people think that he should. So, and he doesn't defend terrifically either. He picks his spots defensively. He's rebounded pretty darn well. He's still, but so it's a kind of an interesting discussion.
Yeah, because if we're analyzing games, right? If we're analyzing the game, we know that Jason Tatum can operate like Jaylen Brown. We know he can do that. I'm not sure Jaylen Brown could be Tatum.
I agree with that too.
And so that's why I go, well, this whole thought process of, well, is XYZ Batman, then, or is Brown Batman and Tatum Robin, is like, that would mean that Batman could do everything that Robin can do, which is what the argument would be. And in that case, no, he can't. Like, he can't. Like, when has Brown ever been a prolific rebounder? When has he ever been a prolific assist man? Like, that's just not part of his game. He can play high level defense. He can play high level defense for sure. But I think that also comes with having less dimensions in his game to wear him down. Like, if I'm just going to be a downhill force and a defender, then that's much less than me having to be the guy who initiates and sets up offense all the time, or the guy who facilitates, or the guy who rebounds, or the guy who has to defend sometime as well. Like, there's a lot of different hats that you're wearing if you're Jason Tatum.
We might say that this is a team with a lot of good players, right? Great players, but let's call them good. But really doesn't have what most championship teams have, which is superstar talent. I mean, that might be what we're saying.
Is this the next level of Pistons?
Yeah, but I mean, the Pistons with Isaiah Thomas.
No, I'm talking the Rip Hamilton championship Pistons.
Sorry.
Where they didn't have Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun Prince. They didn't have a star. They had a bunch of really good players who were also like elite level in one particular thing. And that soup came together perfectly, but then they weren't going to be able to just continually recapture that every year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it is that type of team, and that's why picking up Holiday was so who's what Jack. Tell me there we are. I like that's why KP, I've said from the beginning, is so big. It's why Derek White's ascension is so important. So
yeah, I think all of that that comes into play. When you're
go ahead, sorry.
No, I think we froze up there for a second.
Oh, we definitely froze. I kept talking. I don't know if it made the air, but
yeah, you were frozen on my end. I might have been frozen on your end.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because anybody who's ever listened to this podcast, they know at some point there's going to be a freeze up or a glitch in the matrix. I want to transition and get to this last thing, because I think it's important. There's there is talk that the WNBA is on pace to lose $50 million this year. And my question, well, it's a couple questions. I don't expect you to know like you're inside, but just for the sake of discussion, number one, how, right? How, when everything seems to point to more revenue streams being open, like how is it so bad? Number two, why are we hearing about it? Like why, if this league has lost money every single year of its existence, if it's always been a loss and that the NFL is just floating the league, like
NBA,
why, I'm
NBA.
sorry, the NBA is just floating the league, like why should we, like why is this even a story?
Yeah, I have to defer. I'd like to get your perspective and then possibly react to it, because I don't. The only reason I'd tell you a story is obviously we're getting a lot of attention with Caitlin Clark, and so I don't know if there's some reverberation like that where the owners are saying, hey, it still doesn't translate into so they don't want to. They're giving away some charter flights, but it's like sometimes the NHL used to do it, right? These owners have in all pro sports since the beginning of time have been proven to be in collusion, which is against federal law. So, is there some pre-collusionary information out there because the power structures that be, i.e., white male, don't want to see the growth of the game after all? I mean, I don't know. That's outlandish, but I need to hear some of your thoughts and then maybe get my brain started on it. I haven't given it a lot of thought. I haven't seen that story either.
So here was my thought, right, when I first heard it. My first reaction was to go, how is it possible that they've already predicted how much money they're going to lose? Number two, what is that money? Was that the prediction all along, or is that some new found prediction? Then I started getting into the hate. And here is where I will say that the first part of the hate has come. Because all that we've heard was Caitlin Clark is growing the league. This is exposure for the league. They've never had more of this. They've never had more of that. They've never had more of this. And the entire time that I've been going, all I've said was, hey, what is she doing that's growing the league? The only people that are benefiting from Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark and her team or teams that they play at the gate. That's it. That's it. It's over. Right? So then I went, well, if everybody is saying that she's growing the game and the people are sitting back here going, well, you guys don't know what you're talking about. What better way to say you guys don't know what you're talking about than to leak that we're losing $50 million? Right?
Yeah.
My problem that I have is they were probably going to lose that $50 million already. Like that was probably the thought process going into the year. Like, hey, this is how much we thought we were going to need for our operating budget. This is how much we're probably going to come in under budget. We're probably going to come in 50 million under budget. They probably knew it already. So the fact that we know it says somebody wanted us to know that Caitlin Clark is not moving the needle the way in which you guys think that she's moving the needle.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, obviously, business people successful business people run projections, so they're not, they're supposed to know what's coming down the pike, yeah, I guess it raises that question. So all I can get to is You know, I don't know. I don't know what the, they've never made money. So let's let our listeners be clear on that. Like it's a league that's never made money.
Never.
So, right.
So why is it a thing now?
And it doesn't. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because they're hoping to make money at some point. They're hoping it stands on its own. You have to assume they're hoping Caitlin Clark is part of that, right? But obviously, Caitlin Clark, isn't gonna change the league by herself. It's bigger than that, they're going to have to make a brand out of more players than Caitlin Clark. They've made a brand and they've wanted the brand. And I know I heard your, talk spicy on the football, how, certain players, again, typically white, are branded more freely and more positively. Maybe we make cases for them stronger. I don't disagree with that than others, and we use the Lamar Jackson analogy. So I agree with that. Okay, Caitlin, there needs to be more branding league wide, but they've had, you said this on several pods. Look at they've had great players running around that league forever. So it's really a statement, maybe a sad statement, about the continuing truth of women's sports in America. That it's, we respect it, value it more than we certainly did, but not to the level that it's some financially, stable business model. Whatever.
All right, you ready for my second one?
Yep.
The WNBA is an ability for the NBA to like launder money.
Yeah.
Hey, if the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA and they take a loss every year, what do the taxes look like on that?
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but I was doing a little bit of math. And this is dangerous, right? You get me with a calculator, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But if the average salary of a WNBA player comes out to around $100,000, right? When you add in the stars, like the stars, the veteran stars, because most of them don't make nearly $100,000, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say the average WNBA salary is $100,000, and there are 15 players on a team. I'm not even sure there's 15. It may only be 12, but just for the sake of simple math, that's $1.5 million a team in salaries, right?
Yeah.
There are 12 WNBA teams, which means that's $18 million. $18 million. If Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Pacers, the Indiana Fever, they have 18 home games. They have 18 home games, which means that's 18 times they're going to sell out a $17,000 to $18,000 seat arena, because Caitlin Clark has sold out all their tickets, and the tickets are anywhere between, let's just say an average of $20 when you that is close to $600,000 a game, which means that the ticket sales from just Caitlin Clark's games for the Indiana Fever at home would be enough money to fund the entire salary of the WNBA. How are they losing money? Where is the money going?
Well, I mean, transportation costs are huge. Arena costs are huge, right? you know,
What? But here, and I'm with you. Who owns the arenas?
but probably depends, and
The NBA. The NBA owners own the arenas.
right, by and large. I'm not sure if that's true in every case, but sure.
Most cases, we'll just say in most cases, the NBA
Right.
owners own the arenas, right? And if they don't play in the NBA arena, if they play in some secondary arena, that secondary arena isn't losing money by renting out that arena to the WNBA. And the WNBA has to have a very sweet deal, because why would you turn down having a professional team at that level in your arena? So if the league is working from a deficit, that means that other people are getting paid, and all of them are not named the players. So all of this money is going everywhere except for the players, and everyone is able who has it is able to operate at a loss and continually operate at a loss for 30 years, and you're still expanding. Like,
Well,
something doesn't add up. The
yeah.
only reason you're going to lose $50 million is because you stand to make $500 million in some other capacity, right? We talk about this in politics all the time. Why does somebody spend millions of dollars to get a position where they make $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year?
Well,
It's because they know they're going to make millions in some back door, some way that we're never going to know about.
Wouldn't surprise me. I like the way you're thinking. Probably need to have a sports marketing professional on the pod. I'll run it past a good friend of ours, Al Lewis, tonight. He's in town. He's been up here for a week with his wife. So Al and I played golf this morning, and we're going to get together, have dinner, and watch at least the first part of the game. He did say you guys have talked about getting together. It hasn't happened yet, and he's still looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, I think he's just been running around.
He might just be smart enough to have some quick answers to that whole scenario, because I know he's a hell of a lot smarter than I am, and he might be able to do the math on what you're talking about. For me, I just look at you with a dumb look on my face, and I really, not only do I not know the answer, I sorry listeners, but I really don't care that much either. So shame on me.
It's not a shame. You gotta care about the things that you care about, and let the rest of it fly, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't, like, when it comes to sport, as I've gotten older, right? I don't, I as a kid, you're just so attuned to everything. Your whole life revolves around it, and but now that's spreading myself too thin to a degree. So I focus where I can focus, and I try to appreciate these other things. I try to appreciate a good hockey game. I try to appreciate a good baseball game. But no, I'm not one of these people that's gonna recite all the stats anymore. Do half the things I did when I was 10 years old, which I did still. I think we've talked about that before. How amazing it is when you're a young guy and you know everything about not only your hometown teams and all of them, but half the other teams too. I could no more do that today, but I don't want to, and I don't care that much, and I'm grateful to have other things in my life that get me charged up. So this just isn't one of them, but I think it's in it does have a lot of it has a lot of tentacles to it. It has a lot of pieces to the story that we're talking about that do intrigue me. So I will pay attention, because it's sort of like a good, like a good show. It's got all the elements of something I want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, because I just don't understand how a league that has constantly lost money for 30 years continues to exist and expand.
Well, maybe there's a listener out there or maybe one of our sponsors, but maybe one of the listeners or one of our.
Yeah, maybe we can get one of the sponsors to, really like lock in and give us what we're looking for here. That is Coach Whit Lesure as he pops out of there. I agree. I agree to the extent of this is one of those things where it just might be too convoluted to really figure out. Like it's one of those things that just has so many tentacles to it that it's difficult to discern what we should or should not know and or even care about, to that extent. How is summer recruiting going? And from that, do you ever think about like hitting up other countries, like going and putting boots on soil when recruiting?
I think about it. I mean, sure, thought about it. School's not gonna. Well, they would. I mean, if I put together a plan and it was gonna be make economic sense for me to go anywhere overseas and do that to get players, then the school would support it. I don't have an interest in spending my summer doing that. The young man that was just here on Father's Day from the Netherlands with his dad, 6'9", 240 pounds. I'm waiting for a decision for him this week, but terrific kid and family. Yeah, boots on the ground, run around. No, that's not where my life is at right now either. So I know I'm not. It's not spoiled, but it's. Look at it's maybe it's a little bit spoiled, or you just got. It's like anything else, right? You got to use your time and use your resources and networks, and mine are what they are. Could I grow them in this country beyond? Yeah, probably. I understand that, but at what cost? So I like where we're at. Recruiting's going well. Only have a spot or three left to fill, so I can be pretty judicious with those final spots, and that's really not a lot at this time of year. I mean, I'm in a pretty, so I've always joked around in this thing. I'd have a heck of a good team if I just waited until all school was out and all these high school guys, and I had no idea where they were going. But that brings with it its own set of problems, whether it's the financial model piece of it or the character piece of it. I mean, there's all sorts of, so I've always said, it's each one step at a time recruiting in this environment. But I'm sure, I don't know. There's people that, there's people that would coach it up different, recruit it different. So.
No, I get you. Do you ever look at the way in which you're modeled to do things? And again, I'm putting you on the spot because
If you
haven't
like to.
haven't had the discussion, but like you've had some good teams, but just kind of not quite enough to you know to ring the bell. Like, do you think that what you're doing, or how you've gone about it, how you've cultivated your model, gets you to that point? Or do you think it's a competitive thing where you've gotta first like make sure that you can consistently be competitive? Or is that even not even a thing? Is it really just about, hey, I just want to have good kids with good character, and like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I mean, I do think the last piece of what you say has become more important than ever. So, but and maybe you could argue I'm comfortable with good kids, good character, good teams, and less willing right now or too comfortable to push the envelope more. I mean, I think that's be fair critique. I do ask myself, or if I was in our administration, I might look at it if they knew, if they knew enough to say, okay, well, here's the funding, here's this, here's that, just what a college does. We should, they're looking at either saying, he's doing a good job with what he's got, or they could say he's not doing as good a job with what he's got. They haven't said either of those things to me. Maybe more of I've gotten positive support. I would say to you, yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit too comfortable doing it the way I've done it a little bit. Definitely all in on good guys, good character, enough talent. And then the question is that I've used as a scapegoat going back to when the school really slashed this program, right? Well, at that point, I knew we didn't have the funding to compete anyway. And so that became convenient for me, if you will, to almost put winning and losing out of my coaching priorities. It really became do the best job you possibly can with this group of guys. It doesn't, and really try to sincerely do that and measure yourself by that, to the point that I stop. People ask me mid-season, what's your record? I have no idea. And I honestly go into every game, we're 0-0. I don't make a big deal of that with guys, but I honestly but if you had told me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, hey, what's your record? I could have told you this year's record, last year's record, game by game. I don't. Now, again, it became a convenient out for me to not worry about that. As in recent years, the school supported me further again, right? Then it's fair to say, now, wait a second, are you doing as well as you could be doing with the support that you're getting? And Paris and I, that's a conversation we had last spring and again this spring, but we had it last spring. We had some decisions to make on guys, and we went character and some of that stuff over sheer ability. And I said, I'll take my chances on this rather than going for that. Thought about it some going into this year, and it's I look and say, well, I might be choosing a little bit of my own comfort over a piece of the competitive edge that so and thus you take it and you go, well, is it time to hang it up then? That's where, if you put that to the nth degree and that's coming, but it may not, I think what I'm doing is pretty good. And could it be better? Maybe. And certainly, really in all phases, right? Because that's, as coaches, that's what you're always trying to be better. So I'd say, sure, my recruitment could probably be better. Luckily, I'm not getting fired on a poor recruitment deal the way that a college coach would be. It's going to be measured more in the other things that we do with the young men and the quality of their experience. So that's another. I think it's a strength of mine. So that plays to my strength, but it also plays to where I'm at this stage of my life.
That's fair. And I think that's a great conversation to have for coaches out there that are in the business that you're in, when it comes to the model of the postgraduate year. We know that every year there seems to be a new pop-up shop PG that comes around, and guys that are looking to sustain. I think that's a very poignant conversation to have, because depending upon what you decide, or being held to the standard that you have put. Like if it's, hey, we're going to go and get these dudes and win championships. Okay, well then that's the standard that you said that you want. Now you're going to be judged by that standard. If it's, hey, we want to get young men of quality in here, have them a great experience, teach them some things, and then move them on to be better men. And then that's what the standard is. As long as you're holding that standard, then all right, cool. Like we're getting the job done. But I know that at the core of all of us is competitiveness, right? We want to be competitive. We want to have the opportunity to win if we can. And so I'm always interested in how that goes, and just plus in my own mind and my own thought process about what I want to do and how I want to be, as a coach and as a mentor, as a in anything in that world, like what do I want to stand for, and what should be at the core of who I am, or what I'm trying to do with these young men. I like teaching. I'm a teacher. I like teaching. I like to help people get it. I think a lot of times that gets more and more difficult because people don't want to be taught as much as they used to be willing to be taught. I think a lot of times now there's some other motives, and we have to deal with it. But always an interesting conversation. I thank you for that honest insight. We're almost to the end of this season, season 3. I think we probably have another one of these things. We wrap up the finals.
Yeah.
Unless it's unless it's a game 7, then we'll probably get 2 more of these things. But really do appreciate you always, giving our listeners honest responses and true true words. It's appreciated.
Well, you're welcome, and I'll whatever. We'll leave it there, but appreciate the zebra stripes all the time, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, we're getting to the end of this thing, but and promise to listeners, and more importantly to you, no time off next year. That's like we always talk about getting better. I don't care whether we're doing good, maybe we're doing not as good. No time, no mid-season break next year. God damn it.
We'll have to. This what we'll say. We'll say it on air so that we have to hold to it. We're going to make a schedule, and we're going to stick to the schedule.
All right. Hey, listen, tequila in 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Coach Whit Lesure joining me, Coach Gene Clemens, Zebra Stripes podcast. Make sure that you check out the podcast wherever you get podcasts. That follow him on X at Whit Lesure, me at Gene Clemens. Until next time, you know what it is. Stay tuned. When I come back, I am going to be joined by another coach. I am really, really excited about this interview that you guys are going to see next. It is Talk Spicy. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coach Gene Clemens back with Talk Spicy. Having some technical difficulties trying to get that interview up for you. If I'm not able to do so, I will definitely bring it to you tomorrow. Get you out of here on this. The idea of hate is one that I always find to be very interesting. Like, it's so easy to say that, you know, that someone is quote unquote hating, right? We use that word so frivolously that I think sometimes we don't really understand what it means. But it says a lot when you hate somebody or when you're hating on someone, which is why I thought it was interesting that Kendrick Perkins said that LeBron James was being sensitive because he criticized LeBron James. And I think he and LeBron had been, you know, guys who've known each other for a long time, and so like he said something. LeBron unfriended him, right, on social media, and he said he wouldn't even have noticed, but somebody brought it up, and I thought that was interesting, right? because therein lies the interesting part about this. He said that LeBron was in his feelings about it, but then he went on a national platform to discuss the fact that he thought LeBron James was in his feelings about unfriending him. If he didn't care, why say something? Is it, oh, well, you know, content over everything? Because I feel like there would have been other things in content to talk about. You can't come and whine about LeBron James unfriending you and, hey, why didn't you give me a phone call? And then turn around and say, well, LeBron James is whining about the fact that I was criticizing him. You literally just did the very thing that you accused LeBron James of doing. You accused LeBron James of being in his feelings, right? You accused him of being in his feelings, and that's why he pitched you off. And then but you were in your feelings when he pitched you off. It's a dirty game these people are playing out here. I can tell you one thing. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. If I don't rock with you, I don't rock with you. And if I rock with you, if I rock with you, I rock with you. And here's my problem with Kendrick Perkins. Just because LeBron James unfriended you doesn't mean that you automatically have to stop being a friend to LeBron James. And this is where the friendship or the relationship dynamic is different for me than for a lot of people. Check it out. If I don't rock with you, I don't rock with you. But if I rock with you, me rocking with you is not contingent on whether or not you rock with me. If I love you, I love you. And I don't fall out of love with you because you don't love me. If I like you, I like you. And I don't dislike you because you don't like me. I just might not, you know, I'm a respect your wishes. I'm respect your distance. But if I like you, then I like you. If I rock with you, I rock with you. If I love you, I love you. It is not contingent upon that being reciprocated. And so many times we do things only because we want it reciprocated. And that isn't real love. Real love has nothing to do with reciprocation. There are a lot of fans out there that love teams that don't love them back. They don't stop loving the team because the team doesn't love them back. I'm telling you right now, if you're a Giants fan, the Giants, they don't love you. If you're a Chiefs fan, the Chiefs don't love you. The Chiefs love money. The Giants love money. But that won't stop your love for the team. That is unconditional love. That is the best type of love. That's the best type of the way you can rock with somebody. That's the best way that you can navigate life. If you only ever give out your energy to people who've given it to you, then how do you find more people to give it to you? If I'm constantly only ever waiting to be liked, to like somebody, then that is going to drastically reduce the amount of people that might actually like me. So if I like you, I'm just going to say, hey, I like you. If I love you, I'm going to say I love you. I don't need you to say I love you too. That's not the reward for my love. My love is because of the way I feel. The way I feel about sports can't be taken away by the way in which sports feel about me. The moment I'm done with sports, I'm done with sports regardless of the way sports feels about me. I feel that same way in relationships. I feel that same way in my jobs. If I love it, if it's something that gives me joy, then I am going to derive my love and joy from that. I don't need it from them on the other side. And the moment I don't feel love, the moment I don't feel joy from it, I'll no longer engage. It's that simple. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure you join us. Whatever you do, keep it spicy. Hey, we're going to have a very special interview for you tomorrow. I wasn't able to get it working today because I'm in the car and I'm all around. but I really wanted to be able to talk to y'all again. Make sure that you follow me on all social media at Gene Clemens. Make sure that you go to the YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure you go to the Bleacher Brothers YouTube channel and follow the Bleacher Brothers. Make sure you go to Football Game Plan YouTube channel, Facebook page, social media, and follow all of those there. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.